Hey everybody, it's Wednesday. We're back on Wednesdays. Today we've got Formula One car releases. We've got Elizabeth Warren. We've got XFL. This is Ready Take Live.
Mics are hot.
Playback.
Coming out of graphics.
Live all
Camera
around.
6 and 7 are
2.
hot.
Audio is speeding.
Welcome back to Ready Take Live. My name is Aubrey. I am your TD. And I realized that I am the only one who's actually ever TD'd this show. And I feel very selfish about that. So I do feel as though in the next coming weeks, we're going to have someone else in this chair. Again, welcome back to Ready Take Live, your favorite live show about live shows. We're going to go around and intro everyone, but I have a quick question for them to answer during it today. So we'll start with Al. This is a very weird and nerdy question, but what is your favorite cellular service provider and why?
Oh, well, I've been like a lifetime Verizon guy. I've had the good fortune of having that since my first cell phone. Yeah, that. I got to say Verizon.
I'd say Verizon's a great choice. Makosi?
My favorite was Sprint. Now I'm on Verizon. The service is really good, but I still kind of have a soft spot in my heart for Sprint just because I like the underdog, I guess.
That's cute. And they stole the Verizon guy, so you've got that going for you. And Anna?
I'm going to say Verizon as well. So I've had no problems with it locally or internationally, and my friends are always complaining about theirs, so I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Verizon as well. We're talking about cellular service providers because we use a lot of bonded internet solutions, and that is obviously multiple cellular service providers put together. So you've got solutions like what you've seen us talk about today, or talk about a couple weeks ago with the AirLink from Mobile Viewpoint, anything from the Teradek Bond to the LiveView backpack. They're all great. They're all perfect for their different scenarios. And I will say a throwback to Altel, if anyone remembers Altel.
Oh, my God.
Altel got us Floridians through a hurricane. So big Altel fans, and then obviously bought by Verizon. So that's enough about cellular service providers. How's everybody doing today?
Pretty good.
Good, yeah.
Good.
I got some noise in my line. I'm just going to change that out. 1 second.
Audio. All right. Well, I'm going to skip what he's going to. Oh, and there we go.
All right.
Hey,
Two Aubreys.
there I am.
Two more than anyone wants. All right. You're back, Al? You feel
Yeah, I'm good. There I am.
Sweet.
Hello.
Just some on-camera
know.
troubleshooting. Everybody's cool. Awesome. So I'll start us off with Elizabeth Warren. I'm going to skip around a little bit.
All right. Sure, no
Yeah.
problem.
News tonight.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Warren, we got to do a live stream for her this past week in New Hampshire after the New Hampshire primaries. So obviously, no matter what your political affiliations are, it's very cool to be able to work for someone who wants to make positive change. So, there's me and Elizabeth Warren. How exciting.
Oh.
And then we have another one of Michelle, who's encoding the show today, and Elizabeth Warren. So exciting. In
Yeah.
the blue coat. She looks fantastic.
I have to say, I really wanted to go on this job, and I was a little jelly. I had to stay home and do a different show, but I get it.
I know. I'm sorry.
I get it.
I hear you. But it was very cool. We got to go live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter for Elizabeth Warren, and added in graphics. We got to use Production Bot and vMix, and her team was great. It was great to be a part of the political process in that way. We get to do a couple political things throughout the year, and those are always kind of the fun ones where you get to give back.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's been exciting sort of going all around the country and being a part of that process, even bringing all those feeds back into the REMCR. We had one yesterday, and sort of kind of having a weird place in the whole process. It's kind of fascinating, and sort of be at home and be able to do a lot of those productions is always interesting, because I'm sitting at the couch and watching the news every night and like seeing what's happening, and I guess we sort of have a voice in what's going on in the political spectrum in the U.S.
Yeah, and actually, for some of the stuff that we're covering, you get to see a side of the discussion that's not just like the headline stuff. Because we're digital and we're streaming, we're seeing not just what you see for the 20 minutes or the 1 hour of the national debates that you see, but you see more granular local things that affect people. You hear personal stories of individuals, multiple individuals, and you're hearing how even national politics has an effect on a very local personal level. That actually makes me feel really good about doing what we're doing, just because we're helping that information spread and be more open so that people can make informed decisions.
Yeah, I was in Des Moines yesterday for the political stream that Al was just talking about. And at a restaurant last night, there was a sign hanging up, and it said, "The people who tell the stories rule the world." And I really liked that sign, and it reminded me of why I love live streaming and why I love being able to be a part of the voice that is speaking and being able to be a part of people who want positive change, obviously. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what these platforms really do. I mean, you see it. I mean, like, I know now this goes live all the time on all kinds of different things, and sort of having that platform where it's not just contained by a half-hour show like Makosi was talking about, and sort of be able to draw on these conversations is a really powerful tool, especially in this sort of world that we live in with a lot of disinformation and a lot of really positive information and voices that don't get enough time on air.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Let's move along. What do we got? Formula One?
Sure. We got
Yeah.
Formula One.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about some of that.
This is a super.
What is it going to be?
Yeah. Al, what are we watching?
Yeah.
You going to talk to us
This
about what we're seeing?
is McLaren's launch of their Formula One 2020 car this week. And F1 is beginning their winter testing in Barcelona. They're streaming that on their platform, F1 TV. And the weeks prior, they were releasing all their new liveries and their new models of their cars for this year.
But where was this
And
live on?
this is live on YouTube.
YouTube.
I think I saw it live on Formula One's website, Formula One's YouTube channel. And, I mean, look at this thing. It's ridiculous.
I feel like for the amount of money they spent on the LED walls and programming all of that, and then they couldn't have like all the people bringing the car out come out in car jumpsuits or something cool.
Yeah. I mean, you see two of the guys in the back who are
That
dressed
was
up like
really
mechanics.
funny. Yeah, I was like underwhelmed by that. All of
Yeah.
that production value, and then just people pushing it in their jeans or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe the car was supposed to drive itself at first, and then that fell through.
Be a robot.
So they said, "Here's 4 people, 2 in the black shirts, you be at the front, 2 in the white shirts, you be at the back, and let's make it
I
happen."
mean, they got to pay the drivers to show up.
Or was it a sponsorship? Or they was it sponsored T-shirts? Is that what it was?
I mean, McLaren is sponsored by a whole series of brands. I mean, you see it all over the car livery. Coca-Cola is a big one. A bunch of other random companies as well. I mean, Ferrari went live on Instagram. That was really cool because the way they shot that, they had it actually framed for that 9:16 space that you have on your phone. And they had that in Emilia-Romagna in Italy, where Ferrari is based. And they had it in this beautiful operatic theater, and they've really nicely framed everything so they will land right in the middle. And the car, as the doors open up, you just see this beautiful red car with the Ferrari logo in the back and all that kind of stuff. So it's really cool to see them using Instagram Live to sort of show to the world. There are like millions of followers on Instagram, their new car livery, and get everybody hyped up for this truly international motorsport.
And using Instagram Live as Instagram wants you to use it,
Yeah.
not through. Yeah. The last piece of news for this week, we've got the XFL, right, Makosi?
Yeah, you got that. Here we go.
Stuff happening. They're
Just
doing a
another
little
live
extra
moment.
pushing and shoving. We're trying to get our fucking job done. They're just
Whoops.
And then
Oh, just a beautiful moment where,
you hear the delay happened.
yeah.
The delay happened well after the F-bomb dropped. So
Yeah, this was a live moment too. Like it wasn't. He just got off the field, right? That's what surprises me about this is that this is a game. This is a player, right? This is somebody who's doing probably giving everything that they have to something. It's like speaking to a surgeon during surgery or being in a control room, and like there's a reason there aren't cameras in these environments that you kind of want. I don't know. People are not guarded, you know.
Not to mention the camera's like way below, like at his hip level. So I'm not even sure he was aware. It could have been a radio reporter as far as he knew, right?
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
maybe he didn't know he was on camera.
Yeah, I mean, that's
I
what's...
guess radio doesn't matter, but still,
Yep.
it could have been a press, like a written press person. Who knows? But more to your point, Anna, I think he's just coming off the field. Like his mind isn't
That's-
on like the press room.
I mean, it's definitely a risk that XFL is taking with doing all these live interviews right after a crazy big play. That's not the kind of access that you see on NFL, and I'm sure this is one of the reasons they're they're thinking about that.
But I'm not 100% convinced that they don't actually love it, because it's the edgy thing that the XFL, it's more things that the NFL isn't.
Yeah.
In a way, it distinguishes them as either more authentic or more edgy or more out there, whatever it is. They're definitely competing with a huge brand, and they have to figure out how to find that market. So.
And I think I was surprised that they would even attempt to censor the XFL.
Just have it on HBO.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
yeah.
I feel like the person on the delay button probably wasn't even close to it at the time. We're like, what? Oh, no, we have to
Probably
bleep.
the TD. Who had a
Dang.
button next to them and had to make sure they had.
Well, I do feel bad for the person who
They're just like, what?
they have to
What?
deal with that. They're like, oh no. But yeah,
It's a conversation no one wants to have.
right.
Oh, man.
All right, moving along. This week we have a very exciting guest. He's here with us from Fox Sports. He came from an esports background and Pop Sugar. This week on Pro Talk.
Pro Talk.
All right, like I just said, we've got our good friend Rick. Hey, Rick, what's up?
Oh, no.
Oh, I don't hear him.
There he is.
We don't hear you. Oh no, when you do a good
Rick.
test. Gotta love live.
Where are you at?
Audio, you keep me updated if we,
Yeah, I'm working
we
on
get
it.
a hold of him.
Yeah, let's find out where he's at.
Just another lovely live moment.
Mm-hmm.
You can test as much as you want.
Exactly. Says we have a good connection.
We have some questions in the chat. We can talk
Ooh,
about
that's a
if we
great
want.
idea.
Yeah.
Aaron Nagler, who we know and love and is a fan of the show, he has teenagers, so he chimed in on the phone cellular service conversation. He's got opinions, and he says once you have kids with phones, you'll want them to be on that sweet T-Mobile free data. So I can understand that. He tells us enough things about what his kids do with his phone and with Siri. So
Yeah.
I believe that. And then actually, Beth Russell also wanted to weigh in on the cellular data talk. She says, yes, it did get us through a hurricane. Yes, they did get us through a hurricane. So can you explain this? Because I actually know nothing about what you mentioned.
Altel?
Yeah.
So Altel was one of the OG cellular service providers. I say OG because, I don't know, cell phones, I admittedly started before I was born, but they were around in the South for a very long time. And during Hurricanes Ivan and Katrina, which were very catastrophic for the South, they were the only cellular provider whose service never went down. So we were always able to stay in contact with our family during those hurricanes, and our family spanned the whole coast there. So we're big Altel fans because we never had to worry about getting in touch with people.
Did you ever find out if it was just specific to the kind of technology it was, or were there other brands that had that exact same technology that just failed because they didn't have backups or something, or were they the only ones of that particular type?
I have genuinely no idea. I don't know if they had more cell towers, so even though they had 7 go out, they had 7 others throughout the region. So not to say that we didn't have busy signal. Like there were times where the cell towers were completely full and you couldn't get, but it was so rare that other providers had full cell towers down and areas didn't have any service, and that just wasn't a problem for Altel. And then they got bought by Verizon, so everyone who was an Altel customer became a Verizon customer. But I have to say, they did not bank on what they were able to accomplish with their marketing near enough, because they basically saved half of the South during those times.
Wow.
Are we good, Al?
So you got him back, yeah.
Yeah. All right, Rick, let's try that again.
All right, how's that?
Yeah.
So good.
Hey.
Sorry about that, dude.
There we go. Oh, no worries at all.
Awesome. So
Matty Bridge
it's
saving
always
the
the
day.
case, right? You test and test and test. We tested 15 minutes ago, and then of course we're live and it don't work.
Yay.
exactly.
That happens.
Rednet to the rescue, honestly. I'm pulling, I'm betting off the Rednet to make this work.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
Great.
Good work.
So I called Rick a good friend. We genuinely just met a couple of weeks ago. So Rick, tell us a little bit about your background.
So I've been technical director, just live stream guru, I guess, for about 10 years. Started with Pop Sugar in 2012. and started their whole daily live show that was live daily in 3 different cities for LA, New York, and San Francisco. We did that for about 1.5 to 2 years before TVGN picked it up. We did 300 episodes of kind of the same deal. And we were always going live doing watch parties for award season, or the Bachelor finale was like a fun one, or our live holiday gift guide that we did around December. And then from there, I went to an agency where I was producing esports content for EA Sports mainly. So working on their Madden and FIFA titles for FIFA 19. And then in September, I went over to Fox Sports. And since then, been doing a lot of live watch parties. We were doing watch parties at the World Series, college football, the Super Bowl. That's been primarily the focus the last like 4 or 5 months I've been with Fox Sports.
So you say you did the watch party at the Super Bowl. Was it this watch party?
Wow, touchdown.
Oh, yeah, that's my show.
That's your show? Oh,
That's the
is that
one.
all we have of it, Because
Yeah, that's it. That's
Okay,
it.
that's fine.
That was a
That's
5-second
all
clip.
there is.
Yeah, that's great.
No.
But that's the one. That's the one that was.
But this is one. Will you go back to it,
Yeah,
and then
sure.
will you pause it when we see the scores in the middle?
Yep. Here we go.
And then talk to me, Rick. So we're back a little bit.
Hold
back
on.
a little bit.
Hold on.
Hold it there. So that is new scoring graphics, correct?
So that is the official Fox box. That's what we call it, right? So that is the same graphic that you would see if you tuned in to the linear Super Bowl. And
Yes.
the nice thing is that because we are digital Fox Sports, we are able to make use of our connections with broadcast, right? And this is one of those integrations that we were able to do for this show, which is awesome. It just adds like another thing that really no one else can do in the space. But because again that we have that connection to broadcast, we're able to bring in the same sort of graphics that they're using for the Super Bowl into our digital show.
Yeah, and those were new graphics this year, right? So that vertical
Yes,
phone images would
completely
include the
new.
scores in them.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the new like animation that you saw there, like with the touchdown, that was all brand new. It was all brand new. And that is, like with anything broadcast linear graphics, right? Like you're looking at a key and a fill. So luckily, being able to use Production Bot where you can take in something like a key and a fill. And what I was doing, I could take it as a key and a fill and then actually put it over NDI to a larger switcher, what I was switching the show on. But the actual key and the fill, that was happening on a P-Bot and then over NDI to the larger switcher.
Cool.
That's awesome. So you
So
ran
it's
all
pretty-
those graphics are coming
pretty
from
awesome.
P-Bot. Just like us. All
Yeah.
of the graphics you see here are coming from P-Bot.
Everything in that show came from P-Bot. I mean, it was, it's great to kind of offload a lot of your workflow onto, a solid switcher like that, like you're doing. Essentially what I do is I use it for vMix call, just like what we're doing now. And I use it for Singular graphics, which is HTTP graphics, tag board, and key and fill, anything like that, graphics that we're getting from broadcast. And again, because you're able to do that and because P-Bot's able to output over NDI, it just saves that workload on another switcher.
Amazing. And then you were also at the Daytona 500 this weekend?
I was at the Daytona 500. We were rained out on Sunday, so we actually had a great position, to do our watch party. But unfortunately, it was outside. We just got hammered. But we had to, we had to make the best of it. I mean, we ended up doing about 2.5-3 hours of live coverage. We had ex-drivers and they were talking to us. We were able to get interviews with a lot of the drivers, and we were just able to use shots showcasing what was happening at Daytona at the time, because linear broadcast swapped over to showing, pre-recorded programming. They were not really live checking in on Daytona. We were the only access. So if you wanted like a live look in at how much rain was dumping down, you'd be tuning into our broadcast. So despite it not being like an actual watch party and us needing to adjust our show on the fly, viewership actually it was decent. So
Yeah, that reminds me of a show that we had to do where we got hailed out, so we had to change our camera setup for the last 2 hours of the show. But
yeah, it's a game changer. It's different, and whenever you're doing something like that where you're, in the elements, kind of taught me, it's like, oh, well, you have to be literally prepared for anything. Like, where do we move the set essentially if this happens again? So
definitely. And then I don't want to dwell too much on this part of the Daytona 500, but obviously we can't keep going without talking about the crash that happened.
Yeah.
So you were there during this, and I know you guys weren't live anymore at this point, but what would you say, as from live experience, having to still broadcast during something catastrophic like this, where you don't necessarily know the extent of what's happened and how you maintain tact during all of that?
I actually think if you look back at the broadcast, I actually think that this shot, I don't think that they replayed this more than once. I think that they stopped replaying this until there was an answer until we had like some more information. Otherwise, it was just on social media, but the actual broadcast did not show it. And I think that's one of the things, you have to, with NASCAR especially, like you have to be very careful with what you show and the replays, because you don't know the outcome of what has happened, what you've just seen. And so really being tactful and really not jumping to any conclusions. And I think honestly, like our social media team did very well. And I think social media actually, as a whole, I was very shocked that there weren't a lot of rumors going around as to what had happened, right? There wasn't a lot of speculation and a lot of things that was happening online. It was actually very contained. It was very controlled. And so that was a nice message actually to see post a very scary moment.
Agreed. And a lot of people aren't hearing it until they heard about it on social. So that is the only news they're getting about it.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, there was the tragic accident in Formula 2 last year before the Belgian Grand Prix, and it shut down. Like, as soon as that happened, they only showed it once. Unfortunately, the driver passed away, and everybody on social was very, very sensitive to the issue, especially with knowing how dangerous motorsports are.
Right.
It's a really touchy subject. So getting into, everybody's there to see the excitement of the races and the big collisions, but it's a fine line you have to walk.
Yeah, absolutely. And but again, good news is, I think I saw today, like he's like actually walked out of the hospital, like with his daughters, like incredible. Actually, end of that story, just like wow, after something like that, that's amazing. So.
Wild.
Thank you so much for being on the show today, Rick.
On a lighter note, we have a question for Rick from Aaron Nagler. He wants to know if there's any chance Rick can talk about how Montana and Favre were on set behind the scenes.
They were a lot of fun, and one of the things I think that we also do with these shows, just because when you do a watch party like that, and you're talking about 4 hours of content, right? And we're realistic. We don't think that someone's actually going to tune in. We want them to, obviously, but to watch all 4 hours is going to be difficult, especially during something like the Super Bowl. So what we do is we live feed our show into a live clipping software where we have people that are clipping off best moments and posting that to Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and those little vignettes, those little stories, they actually do really, really well for us. And, but they were great. They stayed behind. They talked to everybody. They shared like some great stories on the broadcast. I think one, that's like hysterical with Joe Montana is that he actually used to call his wife from the sidelines, like while his defense was out. Like he would actually, and there's photos of him like using like an old school, phone, no cell phones at the time, right? And he's literally calling his wife, and I'm like, what are you talking to your wife about during this game? Is she like telling you to like pick up milk on the way home? Like what is happening? You know? So
That's really cool.
It's yeah. I mean, again, when you get those kinds of people and you get them for so long, just like the treasure trove of storytelling that they're able to do, and just this, be able to let their guard down like that. I think it makes for some compelling viewing.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Sure.
I like what you said about the clipping too. We found that we have a lot of awards shows are really interested in clipping now too, and I think it has to do with the length of the content and how there's little nuggets that are actually more marketable than the entire project as a whole. So like the clipping, you can't underestimate the power of that to push the project forward on social media.
For sure, and the other really good benefit of live trim is that you get multiple instances to push out. So instead of just saying, hey, our stream is live, it's the beginning of the award show, it's this person's speech. Oh, did you see this opening number? Oh, did you see this other number? Oh, did you see this person fall when on their way up the stairs? Whatever it is, that's just like so many touch points that you can put out in social. So it's not just award shows, but there are really good formats that lend themselves really well to a live stream along with live trimming.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the more touch points you can have and the more, video that you can have that's pointed back to the original piece of content that you're putting out, all the better.
For sure.
Agreed. Well, thank you so much, Rick. It was great to get to know you more, talk about P-Bot, talk about all the cool stuff you've been working on, and I look forward to getting to hear more about stuff in the future, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Have me back anytime, guys. This was fun.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
Awesome. So we'll let Makosi take us to our next segment.
Which is? Oh, right. Studio demo. That gives you extra time.
Hey guys, welcome to LiveX Studio Demo. And today we're going to be talking about the ATEM Mini. Sorry, I'm a little out of breath. We have 7 seconds to get from the MCR to the studio. The ATEM Mini is a new ATEM switcher product. So this actually came out after the Constellation. So it is the newest switcher on the market for Blackmagic. The ATEM Mini is also the smallest switcher on the market for Blackmagic. It kind of replaces the TV Studio. It's not the TV Studio Pro or 4K, but the original TV Studio. It's a 4-input HDMI switcher with 1 HDMI out. So for today's demo, I'm going to show you how we could use it during a live show. I'm going to use it to demo it. So I've got 2 cameras in here besides the, this is the broadcast that's shooting me right now. We've got 2 ATEM Blackmagic 6K cameras shooting the ATEM Mini. So you can see I'm going to be able to transition between both of them and show you different products. So this is our second 6K camera, which shows you the one 6K camera into the ATEM Mini. So as you can see, as I said, we have the 4 HDMI inputs, 1 HDMI out, a power, and then 2 mic inputs with 1/8" cables. From there, we've got, thank you, it's magic. I'm in here and the cameras are switching. It's so great. So in here you can see we've got the, we've got the 4 buttons. We've got a cut, an auto, and a fade to black button here. We also have duration options on panel, as well as some effect buttons on panel, as well as picture-in-picture and mic control. The great thing about this product is because it is an ATEM product, it also runs on software control. So you can change whatever you want within software control as well if you don't want to use this surface. Things that are great to use it for, gaming, because of the picture-in-picture option, it does do keying, so you could key out yourself as a gamer and be able to use that. The low price point on this makes that super effective for at-home gamers. You're not having to buy a super robust system, and you have the touchpad access, whereas if you're using Wirecast or an OBS or any of the other ones, you don't have that access. So this is super great for that. You're in the middle of your game and you just want to change sources. So yeah, I mean, That's the great thing about the ATEM Mini is that's what there is to it. It's very simple. It's very small. It's HDMI. So we're actually running clean HDMI sources to it right now. We're not even going through any conversions, but you could convert HDMI to SDI or SDI to HDMI depending on your inputs or your output needs. But other than that, it's very straightforward. Do you guys have any questions on the ATEM Mini?
Yeah, I think it'd be really cool to use for switching sources for like laptop playback, like a Keynote, or even to replace like a Playback Pro kind of system, and to be able to have A/B like backup sort of situations, or just like multiple graphics engines. But it's one ME. Is that correct, Aubrey?
Yes.
Cool.
It's just 4 inputs, so yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
I wouldn't even say it works on that system necessarily.
But the really cool thing is you can pretty much almost fit it in a pocket, right? You could fit it in a pocketbook, right?
It's super small. I think it's just a little bit bigger than my iPhone Plus.
Oh, how big is the? I didn't notice. How big is the power brick for it? Is it like a big additional? Sometimes that's.
It's
a
about
gadget.
the same. No, it's just a wall wart.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
which might not be a lovely term to say on air,
No,
but
that's the normal Blackmagic 12-volt thing.
so it's slightly different.
Ooh.
And if I unplug it to show you right now, then you won't see this anymore.
Is it
So
GOE by any chance?
I can't remember.
Ooh.
No,
Oh.
you control ATEM through the Ethernet port.
Yeah, because I think some panels are PoE. Is that right, Mikosi?
Well, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the advanced panels PoE, the
Yeah, the one in
color controls PoE.
Yeah.
That's like a backup. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
We still use an ISC for it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say if you're having PoE, then you're expecting someone that wants to get the ATEM Mini to also have a PoE switch. So it's going to be an easier expectation to be able to plug in
Yeah,
the wall
absolutely.
than to build that into it. I think it's, like you said, it's awesome for laptops to be able to switch inputs there. Any sort of sub-switching of cameras, especially in an HDMI environment, this is ideal. So even for us, having multiple production bots running graphics, to be able to have our graphics op also have one of these in line, and then they're controlling which P-bot we're using, and then we're not having to put multiple inputs into our switcher. We are sub-switching before we get there.
Yeah.
So then you're getting rid of any error that could happen. You're getting rid of any excess inputs. Just makes a lot of
Especially
sense.
a gaming scenario where you know that's the approach. You know you're going to have that shot with the gamer and their gameplay, and that's the shot you're going to want. But instead of taking 2 feeds in, you only have to take 1. Times
Yeah.
10
Yeah.
or 20 competitors or however many players there are.
Yeah, or really anytime you have multiple decks you're working with,
Yeah.
like multiple PowerPoint or Keynote decks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we're a big fan of Blackmagic. Obviously, we've got the 6K cameras here. We're shooting the show on Micro Studios in the studio. We've got our Ursa broadcast pointed at me right now, and we're switching the show on the Constellation 8K. So, big fan of Blackmagic. This is a new product that we're so excited to have our hands on, and we also have a mini review of the ATEM Mini on our YouTube channel. Feel free to check that out as well. Thanks for watching our studio demo.
Yay! Cool. So, Aubrey, tell us where we're going now. Oh, there we go.
Oh no!
Okay. No, it's live.
We're so live today.
We're so live today. Thank you for bearing with us, guys. Let me get that 2-box back up, or that 4-box back up and running for you. So that's the ATEM Mini. Like I said, we love Blackmagic products, and we love ATEM. So there.
Yay! That was a great demo. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, that was a lot, like, all honesty, live right now. That was a lot, like, odder than I expected, and not otter like the animal, like,
OD.
odd.
Yeah.
But yeah, having to walk from, having to do the physical move, and then also trying to switch. That was fun. I do think next time we should put the laptop with ATEM control in the studio for the Constellation, and then it might be cleaner. I also don't know if I can have train of thought with all of that, but having 2 switchers, because I'd have the ATEM Mini and that.
I mean, I really enjoyed my trip across the control room.
You did an awesome
All
job.
the way.
Up until the end, where I was like, oh, wait. It's time to move.
It's like I left my keys at home. Or you left the oven on.
I love the oven on, exactly.
It's
Awesome.
also going
man.
from looking at one set of lights to a new set of lights, and I'm actually having a hard time reading comments right now. So
Well,
that's what we have to look forward to.
we're in it. We're ready for
We're
it.
caught up. I think we're caught up on comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like.
We have just a lot of. Yeah.
So
is that what's next?
if you're just now tuning in with us, we talked about the Formula One race. We talked about Elizabeth Warren's live in New Hampshire that we got to work on. We talked about XFL, whether or not they should be censoring their content or not, because it seems as though they haven't put a lot of effort, resources into making sure that they are on the censor button when needed. And then we got to talk to Rick, and he's from Fox Sports, and he handled the Fox live stream of the Super Bowl watch party with all of the stars. And he talked to us about that, talked to us about his time with Pop Sugar. So if you didn't get to catch any of that, scrub back, watch that too. Check out everything. If you have any questions about what we've talked about so far, write them in the comments. Nick and Anna are trying to bring them in right now for you guys so that we can all look at them. So we'd love to hear from you guys. You can ask us about anything we've talked about on this show. You can tell us what an amazing job we're doing. You can ask about the ATEM Mini. See it. Tell me if you've used it and what content you think we should be talking about in the future. We'd love to hear from you guys, different demos you want to see, different pros you want us to talk to, anything like that.
Yeah, so one comment that came in from Aaron Nagler is about he loves the access of putting a mic in a guy's face as he comes off the field. Of course, that's the clip that we looked at earlier where somebody said a bad word and it went out on broadcast because of broadcast delay, which is all too common. It's a great, quandary, right? The part of me that loves watching Love is Blind and other shows that really kind of take advantage of raw human emotion and kind of seeing what happens. What happens if we put a mic in front of an NFL player as they're coming off the field? Thinks that's really interesting. But the other part of me that thinks there's some integrity to what we do, it's I also see that as problematic and compromising for the player. And, of course, for the broadcast and the sponsors as well. Anybody have anything else?
Yeah, I think it kind of turns a sport into a reality TV show in a way. But, if that's the brand that they're going for, so be it. I mean, it's a different slant than the NFL. NFL is very protective of their players and, the access that everybody in the media has to them. So to kind of open that up and have this environment that's very sort of loose, and it's very young. I mean, they had XFL back in the early 2000s, but them to bring it back now is, it's a tabula rasa for them, and I think they're experimenting. They're going through their teenage phase.
That's really good. Aaron Kothi, I'm sorry if I did that wrong.
You're good.
How would you recommend approaching politicians about providing streaming services for them? What would the value propositions be? Any insight from the Warren broadcast?
Yes, I would love to speak to that. So, and I'd love for Nick McCosey to chime in as well. So for Warren, I wouldn't say we begged, but we really wanted to work on her campaign. Any of the candidates right now are very interesting to us. We do have bonded solutions, so as far as when you're coming into the space, you can offer them different solutions to be able to stream. But as far as value props go, I mean, you want to reach your constituents, and where are people? They're on social media.
Yeah, and in that situation, people they move very quickly, and they don't necessarily have a ton of time or resources to put into tons of pre-production and do things themselves. They just have to either it's going to come in or it's not. And with campaigns, sometimes you literally don't know where they're going to be next week because they might change their plan. But it's also really important and exciting to be a part of something that can be once in a lifetime, where we're with a team as they're on a rise. And whether or not they make it to a specific office or not, they're part of the most important discussion happening in political life at the time, and it's really great to be in service of that, regardless of party. It's just really about serving the process.
And to call back on what I said earlier in the show, the people who tell the stories rule the world. So if we're allowing them a platform to be able to tell their story,
That's right.
then that only means a greater future for them.
Yeah, I would also say like the value proposition almost isn't really complicated for them. They understand the value that they need to be, their face needs to be out there as much as possible. And there are roadblocks to that value. I think they understand that it's something that they want to be doing and something that they should be doing, but there are roadblocks such as the timeline it takes to assemble a crew and a setup and financial barriers to doing that. And location barriers. Like we said, they don't always know where they're going to be and what time they're going to be there and how it's going to go for them and if this is something that they're definitely going to want to publicize. But they understand that they need to be doing it because it's unfiltered messaging for them.
And I would say the best thing you can do to help them is to not make them have to think about anything. So if you're going to provide the bonded service, you don't have to worry about getting them hardline in whatever space they happen to choose to be in. So as long as they're not in a super rural environment that doesn't have great cell service, then you can take care of that for them. So things like that, things like taking care of camera feeds, taking care of audio. Obviously audio you usually pull from a press mold anyways, but anything that you can do that they can take off their plate is going to make them want to use you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Make it easy, make it turnkey, understand where they're coming from. Agreed.
Yeah, so it's more plug and play for them.
Yep.
Yeah. Corey Banke weighed in a little bit on our clipping highlights talk. He said, great point about how the watch party is about clipping highlights. And I think actually politicians also understand that because a lot of the time it's the soundbite that gets echoed throughout the social atmosphere and it's not the full speech. I'm sure they generally have their own teams that take care of that, but I think that's another piece to the puzzle of a complete social push and social presence is being able to have the clips in addition to the full form of whatever the message was or presentation.
Yes, and this being I guess it's the second or third election where social media has had such a big presence. Obviously, the 2016 election had a large social media presence, but people are seeing even more ways to use it. And I obviously follow a lot of the candidates on Instagram, and the clips that they're able to pull and then put a nice logo on at the end that, they pulled from a town hall where they shot for 2 hours and now they have this 5-second clip, but that clip is great and it's worth shooting for the last 5 hours. And that's another value prop for it is like, yes, this entire live stream might not be extremely captivating. Someone might not, they're not going to watch the whole thing, but they're not going to watch the whole Brett Favre watch party of the Super Bowl either. It's a matter of finding the moments that can go viral and finding the moments that really speak to what that candidate wants to speak to.
You're here.
Amen.
Aaron Nagler weighed in on the moment where they launched I'm going to show how good I've been paying attention, the car thing. And the T-shirts and the costuming. He says that if this was LiveX, it would have been LiveX. Well, it would have been production bot jumpsuits. And I would like to make my plea for the LiveX jumpsuit. Another crew member, actually Emily, accounts specialist, was wearing a jumpsuit, and it was black with semi-gloss lettering on it.
I love that.
And I would like to say that I think we should have those.
There it is.
So
it's like our pit crew suit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see us doing like the production bot. Like if production bot sponsored a car, it would be like you just have the production bot face in the middle of the chest, so you unzip it. I don't know. You could run a whole lot of statistics and all that kind of stuff off of PDOT. That's how strong they are.
It's true.
Yeah. That's what we got for chat today.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for watching. We've got our final little segment of how to make you fail no more.
The fail no more is always get whitelisted on the social platforms you're going to go out on live on.
Whitelisting can make you or break you. As always, thank you for watching, and best of luck on your next live production.
See ya.
Yay!
Oh, fail.